The 2026 World Cup is over. But the real match, the one that actually matters, started the moment the final whistle blew. In just 14 days, the most powerful man in football went from untouchable to completely isolated. A fabricated peace prize handed to a wartime president. A phone call that erased a red card. An 887-word Instagram post denying reality itself. And then, the big one. A secret plan to sell the World Cup to private investors. Each scandal fed the next, each one worse than the last. And for the first time in Gianni Infantino's decade-long reign, the people closest to him turned their backs. This is the full story. In order. Piece by piece. Because by the end of it, UEFA had publicly declared they no longer trust the man running world football. If you care about the beautiful game, stay until the end. Share this with someone who needs to see it. And if you haven't already, subscribe so you never miss what's coming next. Let's get into it. Act 1. The Peace Prize. December 2025. It started before a single ball was kicked. On December 5th, 2025, Infantino personally flew to Washington, D.C. to present Donald Trump with something called the FIFA Peace Prize during the World Cup draw ceremony. A brand new award. No nomination process, no transparent criteria, no independent panel. According to Le Monde, the entire thing was Infantino's personal initiative. Now, here's what most people forget. Just a few months later, on February 28, 2026, the Trump administration, in coordination with Israel, launched a military strike on Iran. A conflict that, according to Al Jazeera's reporting, claimed thousands of civilian lives. The recipient of FIFA's Peace Prize had started a war, right before a World Cup on American soil. The irony wasn't subtle. Play the Game, the independent sports governance watchdog, and more than 70 members of the European Parliament formally accused Infantino of violating FIFA's own ethics code, associated football for personal political gain. But Infantino didn't stop at the award. He showed up to a meeting of Trump's so-called Board of Peace on February 19, 2026, wearing a red cap emblazoned with USA and 45-47. The image of FIFA's president in a MAGA-style hat standing shoulder to shoulder with the American president went viral. And in a sport that has always claimed political neutrality as its guiding principle, the backlash was fierce. Act 2. The Phone Call. July 5th to 7th, 2026. If the Peace Prize was the opening act, this was the detonation. July 5th. Round of 32. United States versus Bosnia-Herzegovina. American striker Folarin Balogun receives a straight red card for a dangerous challenge. VAR reviews it. The decision stands. Balogun is suspended, meaning he'll miss the round of 16 clash against Belgium. Then, according to the New York Times, Donald Trump personally called Infantino and asked him to revisit the red card. What happened next hadn't been seen since 1962. Mohammed Al-Kamali, the chairman of FIFA's disciplinary committee, acting alone, overturned the suspension. Balogun was cleared to play against Belgium just 48 hours later. FIFA insisted the disciplinary committee acted independently. Infantino personally denied any connection to the call. Nobody bought it. Trump, for his part, didn't even try to hide it. He publicly confirmed the phone call and praised Infantino. He's a smart guy, a tough guy, and his stock has gone through the roof because the job he's doing is fantastic. UEFA's response was immediate and savage. They accused FIFA of crossing a red line. Former FIFA president Sepp Blatter, the very man Infantino had replaced, posted on X. Red cards are not overturned by political phone calls. They are overturned by rules, evidence, and independent bodies. Jurgen Klopp called for Infantino's resignation. Sky Sports' Jeff Stelling called it an absolute disgrace. Gary Lineker demanded he step down. And 72 members of the European Parliament, up from an initial 35, formally requested an investigation. One phone call, and the credibility of the entire tournament was in ruins. Act 3. The Instagram post. July 27th, 2026. Spain beat Argentina 1-0 in the final at MetLife Stadium on July 19th. The World Cup was done. The criticism was not. 8 days later, with the pressure still mounting, Infantino published an 887-word statement across 15 Instagram slides. The title? My message to all those who... In it, he declared the tournament flawless. No incidents, no hostility. He boasted that Iran had entered the United States and competed, and he accused his critics of spreading hatred and not wanting football to unite the world. The Athletic ran a fact-check within hours. The results were damning. No incidents was demonstrably false. At least 11 people died in connection with the tournament, including an Argentine fan stabbed to death outside MetLife Stadium. There were traffic fatalities, medical emergencies caused by extreme heat. A team bus was attacked in Guadalajara amid cartel-related unrest. Fan violence broke out across multiple host cities. And the claim about Iran? It conveniently ignored the fact that the president of the Iranian Football Federation was denied a visa. 11 officials and support staff were barred from entering the country. Every single fan ticket allocated to Iran was revoked. The national team was forced to set up their base camp in Tijuana, Mexico, and were only permitted to cross the border on match days. Visa rejection rates from multiple nations exceeded 40%, with Jordan's hitting 57%. The post didn't calm anything down. It poured gasoline on the fire. Because it wasn't spin, it was denial. Brazen, documented, verifiable denial. Act 4. Selling the World Cup. July 28th to 29th, 2026. One day after the Instagram post. One single day. With the entire football world already at boiling point, Infantino dropped the biggest bomb of all. FIFA Forward Enterprise. FFE. A subsidiary valued at $20 billion. It would control the commercial rights to everything. Every Men's World Cup, every Women's World Cup, the Club World Cup, and every major FIFA tournament going forward. More than 20% of the equity would be sold to outside private investors. The lead investment partner? Thrive Eternal, a fund founded by Joshua Kushner, brother of Jared Kushner, son-in-law of Donald Trump. JP Morgan had been retained to prepare the investment materials. A 25-page pitch document described the World Cup as the most watched sporting event in the world, while characterizing FIFA as an organization that had not yet fully unlocked its commercial potential. The document outlined plans for tournament expansion, new business initiatives, and attracting top talent through incentive-based compensation packages. Not a single line mentioned women's football. Infantino sent a letter to all 211 member federations promising $40 million each if they backed the plan. $20 million up front, on the condition they agreed before a September 19th deadline. This wasn't a democratic proposal. It was an ultimatum with a check attached. Infantino posted a video on FIFA's official channel calling it just an offer, not an obligation. But here's what made it truly explosive. He'd developed the entire plan in secret. Several FIFA vice presidents, the most senior officials in the organisation, had no idea it existed until it was announced. No continental confederation was consulted. No independent risk assessment was conducted. No due diligence process took place. As BBC Sports put it, this was a one-man project. Act 5. The Revolt. July 30th, 2026. The response came fast, faster than anything in football governance history. UEFA President Alexander Ceferin called an emergency virtual session of all 55 member federations. The result? A unanimous 55-0 vote to boycott every FIFA competition. Men's World Cup, Women's World Cup, Club World Cup, all of it, if Infantino pressed ahead. The statement that followed was one of the most blistering documents ever issued by an international sporting body. The World Cup cannot be treated as an investment product. It is one of football's greatest sporting legacies. It has been built over generations by players, national teams and fans across every continent. No part of it should be ceded to private investors. The World Cup is not for sale. UEFA continued. It is irresponsible and unjustifiable that a proposal of such magnitude for football was conceived in secrecy, without any meaningful consultation with those who carry the sport. This is not merely a profound failure of leadership, it is an abandonment of FIFA's duty as custodian of world football. National federations across the globe are now being presented with an ultimatum. Accept the irreversible capture of football's greatest competitions or face the consequences. This is not democratic decision-making. It is governance by intimidation. Coercion unworthy of an organisation entrusted with the stewardship of the global game. Debbie Hewitt, chair of the English FA and one of FIFA's 8 vice presidents, had no prior knowledge of the plan whatsoever. She addressed the UEFA meeting and the atmosphere was described as venomous. The FA's statement was unequivocal. England stands shoulder to shoulder with its European colleagues. We oppose FIFA's plan. The World Cup belongs to football, and it always will. UEFA Vice President Laura McAllister called the proposal a genuine existential threat to football. British Prime Minister Andy Burnham declared Infantino the wrong person to lead this organisation. And UEFA wasn't alone. CONCACAF, 35 member federations across North and Central America, convened their own meeting on the same day. Their conclusion? Reject. The Asian Football Confederation, 46 members, declared solidarity with UEFA and CONCACAF, expressing disappointment at not being consulted. Add those numbers up. UEFA's 55, CONCACAF's 35, the AFC's 46. That's 136 votes against. Infantino needed 106 to pass his plan. The proposal was dead before it ever reached the ballot. Act 6.1. The Betrayal from Within. July 31st, 2026. But the most devastating blow didn't come from the outside. It came from inside FIFA itself. Carlos Cordero resigned first, Infantino's senior advisor on global strategy and governance. Former president of US Soccer, former Goldman Sachs executive, the man who had represented FIFA on the White House task force for the 2026 World Cup. He walked away and published a lengthy public statement. I cannot stand by while FIFA contemplates selling equity in the World Cup. I oppose this proposal unconditionally. I do not accept the argument that FIFA needs outside investors to unlock greater value. FIFA has accessed extraordinary financing. The organisation is sitting on billions in reserves with no debt. Revenue of $15 billion over the past 4 years is tied to the Men's World Cup just concluded. In that context, selling permanent equity in football's most valuable asset to raise $4.2 billion is senseless. It is mortgaging football's future without any compelling reason. Cordero spoke of the 5 years he'd spent working alongside Infantino with dedicated, principled people who cared deeply about football. And then he issued a direct plea. I hope they will also speak up, because decisions of this magnitude must be made in the interest of football, not in the interest of those who seek to profit from it. Hours later, someone answered that call. Kevin Lemore, FIFA's Chief Operating Officer. The man who ran the day-to-day operations of the entire organisation. French, 44 years old. A long-time colleague of Infantino's from their shared days at UEFA. A core member of the campaign team that put Infantino in power back in 2016. He went public, against his own boss. In a statement to the Associated Press, Lemore wrote, "This is a one-man project. Not only must this project not go ahead, but now is the time for football's policymakers to ask themselves the right questions and make the right decisions." He accused Infantino of a lack of transparency and said FIFA staff had been misled about the investment plan. He declared that his colleagues deserve better than to be disregarded and intimidated. And then he said something that may echo through football history for decades to come. "If that means I lose my job, then so be it. I will understand and respect that decision. At least tonight, I will sleep well." Let that sink in. This wasn't an outside journalist taking shots. This wasn't a disgruntled former official with an axe to grind. This was the sitting Chief Operating Officer of FIFA, the second most powerful person in its administrative structure, publicly accusing his own president of deceiving staff, operating without transparency, and calling on football's leaders to make the right decisions. The implication was unmistakable. Infantino should go. In 122 years of FIFA's existence since its founding in 1904, nothing like this had ever happened. And there's a critical detail that makes it even worse for Infantino. Lemore was FIFA's primary liaison with member federations in Africa and Asia. The exact two voting blocs that Infantino has relied on to maintain his grip on power. His defection doesn't just embarrass Infantino, it threatens to unravel the loyalty network that keeps him in office. Act 7. The Retreat. Late evening, July 31st, 2026. Faced with insurrection from every direction, Infantino surrendered. Late on the night of July 31st, just 3 days after unveiling his plan, he released a statement. This proposal will not be pursued. After carefully listening to all perspectives, it is clear that the project has created divisions which, regardless of the level of support, no longer serve its original purpose. 3 days. That's all it took to destroy the most ambitious commercial plan in FIFA history. As BBC Sport observed, the FFE lasted exactly 2 days longer than the Super League. But if Infantino thought pulling the plug would make it all go away, he was wrong. Act 8. The Final Blow. August 1st, 2026. Hours after the retreat. Morning. UEFA released another statement. This time, there was no diplomacy left. We cannot continue like this, with secret schemes put on a fast track, cooked up by faceless individuals and of questionable benefit to football. We must identify those responsible and hold them to account. Then came the critical line. No option should be off the table. The current FIFA leadership has lost the confidence not only of UEFA, but of many other members of the football family. No option should be off the table. In the language of football governance, that means one thing: removal. UEFA then turned Infantino's own words against him. They quoted his 2016 campaign speech verbatim. "Of course we must be transparent. I have been so for the past 15 years at UEFA. FIFA's money is your money. It is not the FIFA president's money. It is your money, the money of the national associations. and FIFA's money must serve the development of football, nothing else. And then the verdict. On both of these promises, he has failed. The Dutch Football Association, the KNVB, went further. The matter is not resolved for the KNVB. The way this process has unfolded has led to a fundamental breakdown of trust in the leadership of FIFA President Gianni Infantino. The KNVB no longer has confidence in his leadership. German FA President Bernd Neuendorf. The events surrounding the project initiated by Gianni Infantino must now be fully investigated. The FIFA president has acted unilaterally, opaquely, and ultimately irresponsibly with regard to the best interests of football. The timeline. December 2025. Infantino awards Trump the FIFA Peace Prize at the World Cup draw. No nomination process, no transparent criteria. February 2026. Infantino wears a red USA 45-47 cap at Trump's Board of Peace meeting. The US and Israel strike Iran on February 28th. April 2026. Infantino announces he'll seek a third term at the FIFA Congress in Vancouver. Begins lobbying federations using FIFA staff to distribute pre-written letters of support. June 2026. Iran's fan tickets are revoked. Officials are denied visas. The national team is forced to base themselves in Tijuana. Infantino says nothing. July 5th. Balogun is sent off against Bosnia-Herzegovina. July 6th. Trump calls Infantino about the red card. July 7th. FIFA overturns Balogun's suspension. UEFA accuses FIFA of crossing a red line. Klopp, Lineker and Blatter call for Infantino's resignation. 72 EU parliamentarians demand an investigation. July 27th. Infantino's 887-word Instagram post denies every problem at the World Cup. The Athletic fact-checks it and dismantles the claims. July 28th to 29th. Infantino unveils the $20 billion FFE plan. World Cup equity to be sold to private investors, including the Kushner family's fund. $40 million offered to each federation as an ultimatum. July 30th. UEFA votes 55-0 to boycott all FIFA competitions. CONCACAF rejects the plan. The AFC declares solidarity. The British Prime Minister calls Infantino the wrong person. July 31st. Cordero resigns. Lemore publicly breaks with Infantino. The FFE plan is cancelled overnight. August 1st. UEFA declares it has lost confidence in Infantino. Demands a comprehensive governance review. States no option should be off the table. The KNVB, DFB, and English FA issue separate statements demanding investigation and leadership change. So, can he survive? Here's what I think. The probability that Gianni Infantino does not win re-election in March 2027 is now higher than at any point since he first took power. And if that happens, it will be a very good day for players, national teams, and football fans everywhere. Here's why. For the first time, the opposition isn't coming from the outside. From journalists, human rights organisations, voices that Infantino has always been able to dismiss. This time, it's coming from within. His own chief operating officer, his most senior advisor. UEFA, unanimous at 55 votes. CONCACAF with 35. The AFC with 46. National governments, even federations that had signed letters of support for his re-election campaign. The anti-Infantino coalition now holds at least 136 potential votes. The threshold for electing a new president is 106. Now, a word of caution. Continental solidarity, doesn't automatically translate to individual votes. Not all 46 Asian federations or 35 CONCACAF members will necessarily vote against him. Smaller federations in Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean still depend on FIFA development funding, and some may stick with him out of financial necessity. But here's the lesson of the past 2 weeks. Loyalty purchased with money evaporates fast when the political cost becomes too high. And when the man who served as FIFA's primary bridge to African and Asian federations, Kevin Lamore, publicly turns against you, your influence network in those regions is no longer what it was. The candidate nomination deadline is November 18th, 2026. If a credible challenger emerges, someone capable of building a cross-continental coalition, the election in Rabat in March 2027 could become the first genuinely contested race for the FIFA presidency since 2016. Football deserves a president who understands that the World Cup is not an asset to be sold, that sport is not a vehicle for political leaders, that every national team, whether it's Spain or Iran, Brazil or Cabo Verde, deserves equal treatment and equal respect. If that person emerges in the months ahead, fans won't have to watch football be turned into a circus that serves the interests of a powerful few. And this entire saga, as painful as it has been, may turn out to be the turning point world football needed. A new chapter. It's long overdue.